those chat messages, Alice, do you see that there is a...
Yeah, people have...
there's contesting happening.
Contesting happening?
Around chat messages. I retweeted.
Wait, what? You retweeted?
I retweeted. This is important.
I don't, look at your profile.
There is an important show artifact, Alice, that is up for grabs.
Really?
If somebody leaves what we consider the prize-winning chat message for tonight. So far...
Wait, do we still have that?
We do. What, did you get rid of it?
I don't
I should
think
certainly
so,
hope not.
I don't think so, but...
So far...
I'm surprised.
So far, everybody is tied as there are no chat messages. So we shall see.
So do I get it then?
If you leave a message, I would call now if I were you.
Okay.
Okay. Every once in a while, Alice. Every once in a while. How do we say this? Every once in a while, an institution is overcome by inputs. There are too many things happening. All right, first, take a look at this desk. Here's something that's overcome by too many inputs. There's a lot happening. It's still operational. But what's happening with this Somalia stuff, with the Quality Learning Center, where after, remember, we talked about this, the Quality Learning Center was closed, there was no kids there, and then this kid reported on it, and then, as of yesterday, listen to my friend Lemur, things have changed a little bit.
Everyone seems to be talking about the viral video by YouTuber Nick Shirley visiting Somali-run daycares in Minnesota that receive millions in taxpayer money and showing a lack of kids present. Well, I have a strange twist for you. The daycare that's getting the most attention from Shirley's video is the Quality Learning Center, misspelled as Quality Luring Center. While answering questions today, the state commissioner in charge of licensing daycares claimed that the Quality Learning Center permanently closed 1 week ago, which would have been before Shirley filmed his video. Listen.
I will share that our team was notified that Quality Learning Center closed just over a week ago. And I believe the details that were given at that time were around space concerns. And that's what was shared.
But after that press conference, we went back to the Quality Learning Center and vans were dropping off dozens of children. Parents and a manager told us the daycare is open and is legitimate. We saw state inspectors leaving, and we hope to find out by the end of the week if they made any new findings. I'm Lemur.
Okay, so once again, this is what's happening here is fantastic. So he's a mainstream media guy, and he's just one of the stations, including a CBS station that we'll talk about. All of these stations have been trying to knock down this kid's story, this independent reporter's story. So they go...
Well, and this is why I just want to point out, because I know Billy was mad at me for saying that it didn't necessarily prove that if you go there on this one particular day and there's no kids there, that the whole thing is just like a straight up scam. Like, I want to manage my expectations a little bit because I don't want the contention to be that there's just no kids at all and that's how the scam works, because then if they can show there's kids, then it knocks down the apparent story. But the story shouldn't really be that. The story should be that there's all these daycares getting boatloads of taxpayer money under questionable circumstances, even if there's kids there. I don't know. Is it their kids? Is it their friends' kids? Like, I mean, can I just open a daycare and get a ton of money and a bunch of people can bring their kids and we get state assistance because we're all on the same, like, it's a scam. Even if there physically are kids there some days of the week, which there very well could be, then it can still be a scam. So that's why I want to manage expectations around the idea that there's no kids at any of these.
Well, right. I mean, but that's what the media is doing here. So what they're looking for is ticky-tack penalties. They want to say, okay, fine, this kid has 40 minutes worth of incredibly damning video, but there was offensive pass interference, so the whole thing has no credibility.
Yeah, we know there are kids.
Right. So they're looking for stuff. So this station was thrilled when they found out had somebody from the state government say to them, "Oh yeah, we knew this has been closed for 10 days ago." Which, okay, it's closed 10 days ago. Nobody else seemed to know that, and somebody from the state government comes and tries to put the fire out. And of course, these people are happy to platform them. What they make the mistake of doing while they're putting the final nail in the coffin of this kid, this journalist, what's his name?
Nick,
Shirley?
Shirley, yeah.
Well, they're trying to put the final nail in the coffin is they send a van by, mistakenly, and the Somali grifters are now filling the place with kids.
Right.
Which the place that we're told is closed, and the kids are being dropped off in vans that say Department of Transportation.
Right. I mean, part
which
of the
seems like a collusionary effort
right.
to do something, but nobody's on the same page. So the press wants to shut it down. They want to knock it down totally, but they can't because every time they push one end, another end opens.
Right. And part of these grifts is that these communities have a lot of kids. So you have a lot of kids in your community that you can, on the DL, for example, diagnose with autism and sign up for your autism support services. And you give them a cut of the money and you collect the check, which is one of the things they were talking about in that New York Times article. And one of the things that people talked about, for example, in one of these, these like racism viral videos where the girl called some kid the N-word because he was
right.
stealing from her at a playground, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's autistic." And a bunch of people raised the point at the time that there's a huge grift of claiming that kids are autistic in the Somali community in Minnesota, and it's an existing grift that people know about. And the kids in most cases exist, right? They're not just all totally fake kids. Like, you can come up with the kids. So it is, like, in that sense, not fake, quote unquote, but it's fake in the sense that there's like no autism diagnosis. It can be fake in the sense that there's not really daycare needed for these kids. It can be fake in the sense that they're not really providing the daycare much of the time, except on days when they have state inspectors coming. You know, these things, it can be a tiny bit more complex than that. What the press fails to realize somehow is that they're not doing any original reporting here.
Correct.
That the reason why his video went viral is because he wasn't just taking the state press release about the legal action that had been taken against fraud that had already been discovered and, you know, putting out the press release in an article with a bunch of people on it. He went out and did investigative work and actually, you know, showed up at some of these places and asked questions. And whether or not the initial appearance is exactly what it was or not, whether or not, I think you said when you were reading the thing that they said, like, oh, well, all but 2 of them had active licenses. Well, like, 2 of the ones he showed up at don't have active licenses, apparently.
We're going to get to that,
That's
believe
like
me.
not a bad hit rate
Hold on,
for
we're going to get
places
to that.
not even having a license.
So, by the way, we're going to get to that. That's beautiful. That's another example, which Sue O'Connell has repeated all of this stuff, obviously, of another example of trying to put a story to bed, to try to snuff out a story. But I just happened to, as we were talking, as you were talking right then, Alice, go back and watch this video of the Department of Transportation sticker, the vehicle, that said MISA. It said MEISA. So I check it out, and MISA is a transportation company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would think since it said MISA that news company would have looked into who they are and how they might fit in. No, the news company that's now looked into MISA that I just started looking into is a news company called The T, which is a Substack run by Rob Carpenter, who you haven't heard of because he's another citizen journalist who bothered looking. He says a transportation company that delivered children to Minnesota daycares under a fraud investigation kicked off by journalist Nick Shirley may have a bigger tie to transportation than you think. The passenger company is operated by siblings who were federally charged in 2020 for billing Arizona's Medicaid program for 9,000 medical transport trips that never occurred, according to federal court records and state corporate filings reviewed by the Robb Report. This is the Robb Report breaking this. MISA vehicles were among those that arrived at the Quality Learning Center in other Minneapolis area daycares on December 29th, dropping off dozens of children before state auditors conducted site visits. State auditors who just told us, by the way, that this thing was...
There's nothing to see here,
Right.
but they're conducting visits because there obviously is something to see here.
The company's principal officer, Alice, on a scale of not at all Anglo to totally Anglo, where would you say 1 to 10 this company's principal officer would fall?
Which number is Somali?
0.
Okay, 0.
The company's principal officer, Abela Halaim Daim Labawani, and his sister, Nohad Lobanech, were charged by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Arizona on May 27th for conspiring to commit healthcare fraud. Prosecutors allege the siblings falsely billed Arizona's healthcare cost containment system for non-emergency medical transports that never happened, generating $2.75 million in fraudulent Medicaid payments.
Oh.
Lebanon remains listed as manager of MISA Integrated Services in Minnesota. According to Secretary of State records, the company was administratively terminated in January 2025 amid ongoing investigations into Minnesota Social Security's fraud, was reinstated 5 months later.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine. And then a bunch of journalists from Minnesota have been retweeting this story about some guy who was caught for Medicaid fraud that Trump commuted his sentence. Did you see that? I forgot the guy's name, but
No.
he had done some kind of like Medicaid billing fraud. Basically, long story short, Trump commuted his sentence because he had been ordered to pay like restitution for all of the money that was stolen and was paying it back and had served 5 years in prison already. And there were issues with like the prosecution in the case that threatened to upend the case and put the restitution that he was repaying
Yes.
at risk. So Trump commuted the sentence to like get him out of jail, but keep the restitution in place. So, I mean, like, whatever. Totally the same thing, you know, but they're all tweeting it like, well, if Somalis make you mad, then this should make you really mad. The same like what they did when they were like, well, Trump pardoned this drug kingpin guy. See, he doesn't really care. It's so annoying. And it's just like one other step in their levels of grief and denial is to try and like find somebody close to Trump that they can try and say did the same thing. And by the way, I'm sure there are a lot of American-born people who committed a lot of fraud during COVID and other things, especially with like the PPP loans are one of the biggest scams that was out there during COVID. So there's like, I'm fine with going through and finding anybody. I don't care if they're white or green or purple or born here or not born here. I want to find all of it. And I want to make sure that we shut off the spigot for all these people that just think we're idiots.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tommy in New Hampshire says Tom is so jealous of the Somalian scams.
You're freaking right about that, man. Oh my God.
Have you considered opening a daycare since you're
I have.
currently unemployed?
I just tweeted to I messaged my friend Grace Curley today, Alice. More on that in the pit. I just have to tweet this out so I can get this
Okay.
this out there, and then we're gonna play this.
Tariq Shattuck's House of Child Care and Education is what Splash says in the chat.
Okay, so here's the guy. Here's the reporter for CBS News who decided he's gonna bury the story. As Jerry Callahan put it, this guy walked out of his hotel for 10 minutes to do this stand-up to try to knock down this kid reporter, kid Shirley reporter. Nick Shirley is reporting, and listen to this. So much of this is so important.
According to federal prosecutors, it was really during COVID that fraudsters set up these fake restaurants or sham businesses and health clinics. that would provide things like meals to school children or behavioral health services or housing to people with addiction. And because during COVID you didn't have the same checks and balances, you had social distancing.
This is this guy pretending, but taking the word of all government officials, pretending he's doing the same kind of reporting that Nick Shirley did. You see, we knew most of this stuff. We've reported on this.
You
It
just
was
didn't pay
known.
attention when we did it for some reason.
We talked to all the people in government because they'll talk to us. They won't talk to Nick Shirley.
You couldn't have the site visits, you couldn't have the in-person inspections. Well, the fraudsters got away with it all and provided the receipts and collected boatloads of cash from us, the taxpayers. More than 90 people have been charged in the schemes, mostly Somalis, and more than 60 people have been convicted. Now you have this viral video getting traction.
So in other words, yeah, we've been on this. Law enforcement's been on this. Media's been on this. Sure, yeah, it's mostly Somali. They're being convicted. You see, I said the word Somali. Okay, so I'm not afraid to be called a racist.
Online, it's from influencer Nick Shirley, and he visited
Influencer.
several daycares, Somali-owned daycares in the Twin Cities, and basically accused them of doing the same thing. Running these sham operations where kids didn't show up, but still billed the federal government and collected millions of dollars in Medicaid funds. We visited those sites.
Okay, we visited those sites. So this is where it starts, okay? This is the whitewashing of the thing, and his attempt to use persuasion to get you to just lose the scent.
Too, as did state inspectors many times over the last 6 months. And we found the facts on the ground tell a different story.
How does he know state inspectors did many times over the last 6 months?
Because there's public records of it.
How does he know?
Because Nick Shirley showed them the records.
No,
I don't know why.
because state inspectors told him they did.
Okay.
Hey guys, it's Rob Mancuso here at Channel 7. Just want to make sure you sent people over there, right? Yeah, lots of times. Okay, see you later. Have a good New Year.
Those daycares, many of them were written up for safety violations, things like maybe busted equipment or...
Why maybe? Why not what they are?
Right.
Well, I mean, could be maybe busted equipment. I mean, nothing to, like, it's maybe stuff that you don't have to worry about. Just safety violations. If you're a parent with your kid going to a daycare, I want to know the safety violations. We're maybe not going to find out for you.
Staff training issues, but that's not the same as being fraudulent.
No, it's not the same as being fraudulent. It's a whole other bunch of very concerning charges
Right.
that we should all be worried about. It's not the same as being fraudulent. Well, you haven't looked into them being fraudulent. This kid did. He's got 42 minutes of what looks like fraudulent stuff.
So it's important to put all of this into context.
Thanks, Sue O'Connell. What should we be thinking about?
Granted, fraud is indisputably an issue in Minnesota, and next year it's going to turn up the heat continuously on state officials, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who's running for re-election. And there are 14 programs, Medicaid-funded programs, that are currently under investigation by state and federal government. But childcare is not one of them. Again, this is something we're going to keep following well into next year.
Does he feel that exonerates him? So
I also find it really funny when he says this sentence, like that fraud is obviously a big issue in Minnesota. And then does he say, and it's going to turn up the heat on state officials?
Yes.
The fraud is going to turn up the heat on state officials.
Yes.
Not like, we're not going to like press them on it.
No.
We're not going to
We're going
do
after Nick
anything.
Shirley right now. Exactly. And we're going to be, yes, we're going to be, and so in other words, next time
The fraud might cause some issues for the state officials.
Next time
What?
Nick Shirley dumps a whole bunch of damning video, yes, we'll scramble the vans and we'll look at this again and tell you how much we already covered this and it's unsubstantiated. And the fact that everybody involved seems to have a criminal record doesn't mean for fraud, doesn't mean that it's fraud. But
Well, and some of them might be fraud and some might not be too. Like,
Sure.
It's very hard to tell.
well, the point
because-
is, but listen to this. See, this is the CBS News description of this guy's work. CBS News conducted its own analysis of nearly a dozen daycare centers mentioned by Shirley. By the way, I ask why nearly. Why don't you know how many that you conducted your own analysis of? We conducted nearly a dozen of nearly a dozen. Okay, so does that mean it was 11? Does that mean it was 8? I think once you hit 8, you're starting to be nearly to a dozen. What does nearly mean? Why don't you give us a number? We conducted its own analysis of nearly a dozen daycare centers mentioned by Shirley. All but 2 have active licenses. Oh, okay. Nearly 1/6 at least of them are all licensed.
So just like 20% of them don't have licenses.
Well, as far as we know, it matters what nearly means, which they won't tell us. All but 2 have active licenses, according to state records. One of the problems here, and I know we're not talking about real reporters here, is that there appears to be problems with the state records.
Right.
According to state records, and all active locations were visited by state regulators within the last 6 months. That is amazing. That's like when they're eating cats and eating the dogs. Yeah, we called the mayor, and the mayor said that they're not eating the cats and eating the dogs. So, case closed. Okay.
Have you tried going around and taking any pictures or video of what's happening in the community?
Right.
I loved, too, that all those liberals spent, like, several weeks on Twitter complaining that the cats and dogs thing was a huge lie that was made up by racists. And then right after that, like Ring camera footage of the delivery driver surfaced that was a Haitian delivery driver that literally stole somebody's cat and carried it away by the tail.
Oh, geez.
Did you see that video? No. It was like in the last month or so.
Well, let me finish this description. All active locations were visited by state regulators within the last 6 months. CBS News Review also found dozens of citations related to safety, cleanliness, equipment, and staff training, among other violations. But, okay, before that makes you worried, there was no recorded evidence of fraud. Okay? These people are unsafe. They don't have the right equipment.
Fraud.
They're not clean, and they're not trained, but they're not fraudsters. Come on.
It's like the same thing that they do with like election integrity. Is it's like they make all the rules to make it impossible to detect any voter fraud. Like you can't have voter IDs. You can't check and see if the person's real or if they're dead. You can't, like, they've made it impossible to actually find out if there was voter fraud. And then they go, there's no evidence there's any voter fraud. Well, yeah, because you like didn't do anything to prevent any voter fraud. We just hand out the money and we don't check on anything, but there's no evidence there was any fraud. Like, okay. But it does highlight a big problem with Medicaid and Medicare both, which is that, and this is a problem that's been exacerbated since Obamacare with private insurances as well, which is that part of what Obamacare did was it demanded that insurance companies spend whatever percent, it's like 80% or 90% of premiums on care, which sounds good in theory. It means they can't have high overhead. They operate efficiently. They're not like wasting the money on a healthcare bureaucracy. But what it means in practice is that the insurance companies, and this is what happens in Medicare and Medicaid, are incentivized not to catch fraud, because when you pay out fraudulent claims, that increases the percentage that you're using to pay out claims.
Of course.
So you can say like, wow, look how efficient Medicaid is. We, spend nothing on bureaucracy. We spend, 90% of the money that we bring in, we spend it directly on claims. So there's no bureaucracy. It's just going straight to the people. Well, but of course that creates an incentive to have fraud, because actually looking for fraud is overhead that goes into the bad part of the number that you don't want, where they're going to call it, inefficient operations, and your money's going to inefficient bureaucracies, when in fact, like, that would actually lower costs quite a bit, because they do absolutely nothing to look for fraud at all.
Of course. Let me get this. Speaking of fraud, this is a Massachusetts woman. She was on Libs of TikTok, picked her up doing another kind of fraud. And we're not surprised at all. I mean, John Featherston himself was already talking about this stuff with the extravagancies of all the illegals put up in the Healy hotels.
My entire FYP today has been Nick Shirley, Somalis, and daycare fraud in Minnesota. And now it's starting to slowly transition to Ohio and similar fraud. And I keep commenting in comment sections, but I'm just going to make a video now that this similar fraud happens here in Massachusetts. I used to work for early intervention, and when I had an appointment to service a child who went to a daycare that received vouchers, I was never let in 100% of the time. Never let in. I was either not let in or no one would come to the door. And then since I didn't service that child, I did not get paid for my time because early intervention is part of the Department of Public Health. And there was one time when someone from a daycare that received vouchers did actually come to the door, and they told me that the child wasn't there. So then I had to contact the parent, and the parent assured me that they dropped their child off that morning, but I wasn't let in. So similar fraud happens probably across the country, but I know for a fact from working for early intervention that it does happen in Massachusetts as well.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning. I mean, there's
It
no
is
doubt.
interesting because, so you remember the daycare we used in Melrose?
Yep.
And that was like one of her things was she took vouchers and they had like state inspections. People would show up there and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it was interesting because there is, and that was like my first exposure to the idea. This is the daycare where we send our kids when we had 2 kids and fancy daycares became too expensive. And also she didn't care if we were late to pick up our kids, which
Yeah, this was a
I
godsend.
I had a very long commute at that time. And sometimes I was late to pick up the kids. Like I just couldn't have one of these daycares that was super strict about it and would kick you out. So this was a home daycare, and it was a godsend, like price wise, absolutely. And I think the reason was because she was getting state vouchers from like a ton of the kids that were there. I think a lot of times it's kids that are in like foster care or somehow interacting with the state system or are on some state aid in some other way. But yeah, it definitely, our kids came home smelling like cigarettes and
Yes.
had hung out with cats all day.
Yes,
But
cat hair. It was the best place we could. It was a perfect place
it
for
was
us at that
great.
time.
It was great. It was exactly what we needed. It was walking distance from our house. We didn't need a second car. It was ideal. But it is fascinating. And that, like I say, that was my first exposure to the concept that there were a bunch of people getting free daycare, because daycare is insanely expensive in Massachusetts, and I mean everywhere, but especially in Massachusetts.
Well, but the grift would be is if she was getting the vouchers, getting all the money,
Right.
and either one of the things you're hearing is that the parents would say hi, and the kids would come right back out and go home, and they all got a piece of it.
Right.
And that's the grift.
Right. They get a piece. The person gets a piece. They don't really have to watch kids. And that's where it turns into a grift. Or you say they're there more days than they're actually there, so that you get more money
Yes.
than, it really takes. But yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to sort of scam that system. But obviously, and these state agencies, there's no way they can keep up with the volume, especially since COVID, of all these programs and what they're giving out in order to check on them. Like they're saying, oh, we've checked on all of them in the last 6 months. Like that's some kind of accomplishment.
Yeah, no, that's a problem.
We've checked on them in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how much fraud can happen in 6 months? I mean, that's insane to me, but I'm sure the caseworkers have an insane caseload and can't actually follow up on all these things. I'm sure 6 months is great for them.
Here's the Quality Learning Center boss. They cut him out in the street, trying to explain that they have odd hours, and that's why I didn't see any kids.
What would you say to Nick Shirley, the YouTuber, if he was standing in front of you
I have
right
nothing
now?
against him himself, but I do have something against the rhetoric. It's if you're gonna be a
rhetoric.
journalist, just have a moral compass. Do what you do correctly. If you catch business that are fraud, no one here is with that, or we don't support that as a community. I don't support that myself. I was born and raised here. I'm not for fraud. The notion that hey, a certain batch of somebody got caught, so all of them support it. It's no one. If in any community, any mishaps that
This
happen,
might not be the owner, maybe just a local.
the community obviously doesn't want that to happen. It's a stain on all of our names, as you guys can see. We don't want that to happen. We don't take part in that. We don't like that. We don't want that in our communities. But just to say, hey, a certain company got caught, so they must all do it, and I feel like that's what he's doing. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, but he went to all the places.
Mhm.
You know, it's not as if he dumped a whole bunch of video, and you can do with it what you will.
Yeah, and I think that it also comes down to like what you think is an acceptable level of fraud. Probably some of these places are fraudulent and some are not, or have varying degrees of fraud. Like there are some days they're a daycare center, but the kids don't come as many days as they're claiming that they are. You know, it's like so many medical bills are fraudulent, but they're like inflated claims. Like they've done the analysis of anesthesiologists to show that like they report round number minutes of anesthesia much too frequently for it to be by chance, and they're supposed to report it to the minute because they bill a lot of money per minute. And so basically like they know that all kinds of medical billing is way overbilled. There's fraud all over the place. So like what percent is acceptable to you? What if 20 to 25% of the daycare money, so that's like one out of every 45 or $4 to $5 that is flowing to those daycare centers, what if a fourth of it is fraudulent? What if half is fraudulent?
Right.
Like they said
That's
about
huge.
the Medicaid dollars to the state of Minnesota. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. And like when I say I think the scale is unbelievable, like that's what I'm talking about, because I know that these programs have a ton of fraud, but when I'm saying a ton of fraud, I'm thinking like it's like 3% or something. You know, if it's 20%, if it's 25 or 30 or 50%, that's like huge money. That, like we said the other day, it's like percents of countries' GDPs, basically. Like
Absolutely,
it's
it
nuts.
is.
And if a lot of that money is then flowing overseas to fund terrorist groups, that's even worse. So like, yeah, no, it's not the whole community. I don't think every single Somali person is grifting from the state of Minnesota, just like I don't think every Muslim person is a terrorist. But the problem is you go to Muslim countries and you poll people there and like 30% of them think suicide bombing is good. So it's like, you know, what percent are you comfortable with? And if it's 20%, if 2 out of 10, for example, daycare centers are don't have active licenses but are still collecting state money, like that's an issue.
Well, yes.
So it's a question about the scale, because it's going to cause a lot of problems and trust in the system.
When he says, okay, some are unlicensed and, you know, there's safety issues and equipment issues and people aren't trained, but that's not fraud. It's really saying it's not rape. It's like, okay, it's not fraud. It's not, you were saying somebody, I mean, what a weird thing. What a weird way to try to ameliorate a hefty charge. By saying, okay, we'll give you you got all these other things, but they wouldn't do fraud. The community where 80% of them are doing fraud, they wouldn't do, it wouldn't be freaking amazing. You know, it's unfortunate. I was listening to Grace today, Grace Curley, and locally in the Howie Carr Radio Network, and they had a poll saying, or maybe it was Howie. Do you think Tim Walz will be arrested? And most people thought no. And I have no reason to believe anybody is going to get arrested. They have made fraud or they've brought fraud in the equivalent of in Boston suddenly arresting everybody who jaywalks, which now many fewer people do, which makes me puke.
Well, remember I told you that one of the things they were doing in D.C. when Trump cracked down in D.C. and sent the National Guard in to support the local police and start arresting people was that they were starting to enforce the rules about e-bikes being used by delivery drivers, many of whom, by the way, have the added bonus of being illegal immigrants once you check. And that it's sort of win-win because people hate that the e-bike drivers don't follow any of the rules and practically run people over all the time. They are so annoying and so dangerous. And, you know, so if you crack down on the behavior that people hate, and it turns out a bunch of those people are deportable illegal immigrants, then, you know, you're sort of creating wins for everyone. So that's like also another route. But yeah, it's this idea that you have communities of people, many of whom, not all, whatever percent, are living in the shadows and came here illegally and are already illegally using someone else's social security number to do stuff, or, you know, somebody else's identification to get DUIs on, like the guy the New York Times wrote the sympathetic profile of a couple months ago.
Yes.
That, of course, you have people who are also willing to do a little fraud. If you find out, all you have to do is like sign. I mean, let's be real. You would do that. If somebody offered you to sign a form to say Peter was at their daycare a few days a week and you got to have some money, would you do that?
Yes.
I mean, like,
if you're listening and you need that to be done.
So, like, obviously a bunch of people would do that. Like, and you have a community full of people who are already living in a bunch of legal gray areas.
Yes.
Or who are covering for other people who are.
Right, and you have a mayor who does exotic dances of your culture, who gags when he eats your food, prostrates himself again, and who gives entire speeches in your language. I think you might feel you have cover. And
they changed the state flag to be the flag of your country, basically. Like, I mean, okay, guys.
You see that this New Covenant manifesto, trans killer, the FBI has released essentially a whole bunch of the manifesto, and it says everything you would think it says.
Oh, yeah, and did you see that they used student loan money to purchase the guns? So, I mean, like...
What we thought was happening. Everybody knew.
Everything's a scam. Yes. Everything's a grift.
And the media went
to
right
some
along with
degree or
it.
another.
Went right along. That's the most dangerous thing, is that this media goes right along with these people. Where are you? Do you have anything on Megyn Kelly versus Mark Levin?
I have been sort of getting sick of Megyn Kelly's shtick for a little while now, to be perfectly honest. I think trying to pull this balancing act with Candace Owens has been a tough look for her. And like now to go after Levin, I think is weird. Have you followed into, they're trying to say that Mark Levin is anti-Christian.
I didn't even see that. I saw that they were calling each other names today.
Yeah, it's because he criticized like Jack Posobiec going and waving the rosary around at the TPUSA event.
Oh.
So they're trying to say that he's anti-Christian. Wink, wink.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, so I don't know. I think it's messy. I think it's stupid. I find Candace Owens to have gone off the deep end. I find like defending her to be kind of silly at this point. Like, I'm just at the point where I'm ignoring her, and I don't know why she rubs me the wrong way and Tucker doesn't as much, even though Tucker's obviously swimming in the same cesspool of people. But I don't know why her thing bothers me more.
I think that
maybe I'm just a hypocrite, but
I think that she's she wants the popular boys to like her. And so she'll do and say and gravitate towards being one of the boys. And right now she thinks that that's where the value is. And she doesn't want to lose Candace support. She doesn't want to lose Tucker support. I don't think she has all that much.
But she also doesn't want to lose like the Daily Wire people support.
Right. And that's why she's been like, since her show started, I haven't listened to it really in a couple months, but she was having commentary people on and
but are those people still going on her show, or are they kind of walking away now?
I would doubt that they're going on her show anymore. I assume that they've all walked away. But I don't even know the National Review people if they're getting close to her anymore. I'm not sure. And I mean, and I also don't like. This is kind of me asking people to have a backbone where.
Well, and John in Greenwood says that Levin has Trump derangement syndrome.
Levin does?
I guess.
He hates him now?
I guess people are saying they don't like him. Tommy New Hampshire mentions Alex Jones has jumped in. He's been critical of Candace Owens, actually. Alex Jones has.
Yeah, and I don't even know what to make of that. Mark Levin is TDS? Are you sure he's not a big Trump guy?
I don't know, but I find all of this stuff to be like a bit. I don't need. It's kind of like inside baseball. Like, I don't think regular people care. And I think these like conservative influencers are so wrapped up in the conservative influencer wars. Like, I'm starting to get exhausted of all of them.
Levin was just way too touchy with Trump the other day with his arm around him, like moving him around.
And I said, this is our first Jewish president. Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two not consecutive presidencies. We thank you for everything.
That's right. Bad things happened on the second one. Namely, the election was rigged. And we found out, and you see that happening. But,
and you are the greatest president.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you. I miss you. I miss you.
Yeah, no, I don't think he is. But yeah, who knows? I don't know. I don't. It's easier. I would still pick up the phone from Megyn Kelly and Tucker. If Tucker said, "Come up to me and let's talk," I would do that in a second. I just don't have, and this is probably a selling out of whatever. I don't hate him. I just don't hate him.
Yeah, he seems like kind of a fun and likable guy still.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I don't hate her either. I mean, the people who I
would you pick up the phone from Candace?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay.
Well, I think I would. I mean, I've liked her for a long time. I'd pick up the phone from Gavin McInnes, who says stuff like that. Crazy. That's why I say crazy stuff.
But Candace Owens claims like that the French government is trying to kill her and stuff, and that Erica Kirk was at a meeting. She claimed to have this like witness that she fundraised $150,000 for, by the way, claiming that Erica Kirk was at the meeting to like put the hit out on Charlie.
Yeah, it's gross.
I mean, like, can people just not stop themselves once they start to like get high off the fumes of the comment section that's loving everything they're saying?
So I DM'd with Candace or just tweeted at her, and we went back and forth a long time ago, like 2015 or 20. It was the moment I think Dave Rubin talked to her, and he was unearthing all sorts of new interesting people, and I thought she was very sweet and funny and well spoken and pretty actually, and so yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, who am I supposed to?
I did think it was interesting because somebody was and there's not as good data out there as there used to be for like TV ratings for what ages of people are watching what. But I did see some polling because people were claiming that like Candace and Tucker are like more groipery, and so they're like for a younger audience, and the Daily Wire people are for old like boomer evangelical Israel lovers or whatever. And somebody pulled out some data that I hadn't seen that was like polling data that was showing that the Daily Wire audience is actually like much younger than like Tucker's audience is all super old. Which I kind of believe that. I mean, our kids had heard of some of the Daily Wire people. Remember Britt Cooper?
I liked her too.
Like our kids like that, and that's done in the style of young people.
It kind of feels like this to me. Kind of feels like the dark web thing happened, and all sorts of great voices happened and grew, and the right pulled influence away from the left, and it's kind of like at the end of the 1960s where there's people are ODing over here and are joining the Weather Underground over there, and a lot of the stuff just seems to be going sideways now.
Yeah.
And once it does, then it'll resettle.
Although there's good signs, OD rates are falling in America.
No, that's good.
The murder rate's been dropping in America the last year or two. Like there's green shoots, and I think stuff is positive, and I think Trump's first year has been a year with a lot of good stuff happening. Some not as good stuff, but a lot of good stuff. And I think that in particular, like there are some good economic signs and some good cultural signs. And I think people just have to be careful not to get pulled too deep into crazy town.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy. The internet's right there, and it's trying to, like, suck you into the worst, most insane places. And, like, you just don't have to go down that road. You can just be normal. Like, you can just try and act like a normal person.
I agree. I agree.
Be happy that Trump's making your 401k get bigger and, like, go to work and have a nice day. Like, you can just be normal.
That does remind me. I think we might have mentioned it yesterday. The reason we were so late is because we were going through our expenses last night, and that's why it just took. We had to go through essentially every hour of every day, every transaction, of 365 of them. And it is amazing, Alice. Cause and effect is a pretty sturdy principle. You know? It really is. Almost everything you can see, really, and this goes against the conspiracy thing, it's like, really, it is easy to not have a lot of money when you spend a lot of money for short fixes. Like we had no idea. We had no idea, like, how often we went to McDonald's. And the other thing is, too, it's the worst.
I knew how often I went to McDonald's.
Yeah, but you don't. I was reading. I was going through every day, and there's another one. Boom, 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 boom. And, like, getting our 2 coffees, $7.87. Our 2 coffees cost $7.87. And I was like, here's another Dunkin'. And it's just, like, interesting. Once you type it, like, the mind doesn't work, I think, in a lot of ways, like a spreadsheet does.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy for your mind to massage history, which is like with the conspiracy thing, you know, the Israel was only created in 1948. I mean, the place is called Palestine. Right? It's easy enough. I mean, why not just get off? You know, plus the AIPAC. It's like easy to fall into these things if you decide to detach from anything really factual.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've blown up the capability of ingesting anything factual as factual, well, then you're just untethered. Then you can succumb to anything. So that's my 2 cents, Alice.
Yeah. You know who else has gone off the deep end?
Who?
Is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I know, but who cares?
She's got the New York Times serious profile treatment with very close-up pictures of her face, and where she says she was so naive to believe in Trump.
Yeah, and the Republican men are talking. I mean, it doesn't matter.
The Mar-a-Lago women,
I believe, Alice, that we
are tacky.
We have never really sung the praises of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think we are safe to say that we didn't build her. I don't care. For me, I don't need much from her. What do I need from any female politician?
To be hot?
That's right, and she's not. So I am out on her.
Some people liked her.
Yeah, that's odd. I think Jerry liked her. Freaking, come on. Doesn't make any sense. Jerry's wife's beautiful.
Shattuck has never needed Steve from Gloucester more. He was a Marjorie Taylor Greene fan.
Ooh. Here we go. This is our winner, by the way. I've cleared every other message but this one. This is our winner of the remote control.
Hey, Tom and Alice, John and Greenwood here.
Hey, John.
Yeah, like I said, I was a Mark Levinite there for a long time, but he was so never Trump early on, like especially when Cruz was running against him.
I can see that.
I had to check to make sure he wasn't one of the National Review signers because he was like just unsatisfiable is what I put in the chat. Like that's how Mark Levin is. But I suppose after the Abraham Accords and everything, he came around, but he is easy to piss off. Okay. Talk to you later. Goodbye.
Thank you. And you will be getting that in the mail. Alice Shattuck will be mailing that. That's on your plate, Alice. That remote to you, John.
Okay.
And yeah, I think, but I mean, he's so like, I would say a third of Trump's notable supporters now started as never Trump guys. I mean, you had to be at first. That's who was out there originally.
Thank you so much for. Oh, can I say one more thing before we go? Sorry. There was one other thing I wanted to hit.
Oh my
which is that
God.
I do think the clavicular thing has got to be like some kind of op at this point to just be in the public eye, because he did the Michael Knowles interview and ran over a guy with his cyber truck. And now he's out here. He did some interview where he said that Charlie Kirk wouldn't have been shot if he was hotter.
Yeah. Everybody's like Madonna now. That's great.
So,
you know what the like.
Speaking of people who are out of touch with reality, and like once again, it's just another form of internet rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I think that a kid like him, he's 20 years old, Alice. I think a kid like him is not connected, like morally, to his online persona. He just thinks this is the guy I'm creating for my Instagram. Or his Quick, whatever he's on.
Kick. He got kicked off Kick.
And this persona, this everything is pro wrestling. So this is my persona guy. And this is going to get me rich and famous and have northeastern cougars.
All I have to do is just run somebody over in my Tesla and say that. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate the chat message. John and Greenwood, good job.
The others were cleared. We had over 30 messages.
Oh, wow.
But this was a special contest.
Okay. Appreciate it, and appreciate people being in the chat with us. Also, if you want to join the chat, we do have that every day at patreon.com/burnbarrel. And if you want to join that, you can do that. But otherwise, you can always go to burnbarrelpodcast.com.
C'est la vie.